Okay. So what time is it now? 7:02. I'll give it another 30 seconds or not. And don't forget, everybody, please say hi when you log in. If I don't see your name show up, I apologize. And if you have any questions on anything I'm going to show you, and today's going to be an exciting segment, feel free to type them in and I'm going to answer them as I go. Hopefully I see them all. Okay, let's start. Are you guys ready for me to start? All right, so, salut Frédéric. So let's start with some equipment that I and my team use on a regular basis. And hi, Alan. So everybody, our producer just logged in. Feel free to say hi to Alan. And hi, William. So some of the equipment that we use varies. And here we go. And it varies from GPSs to microphones to recorders to different types of cameras, hidden cameras. And I've got a few of them with me. And hopefully you enjoy some of these things. So let's start with the GPS. So the GPS I'm about to show you gets beaten up, and you're gonna see what I mean by that. But this is the one that we typically use on vehicles, and we provide a magnet to it. And you can put it in, it's been in the trunk of a vehicle before. It's been underneath a bunch of different cars, equipments for construction sites, all that kind of stuff. So this here is a nano GPS, and I've had it for, I think, almost 4 years now. And as you can tell, it's been used and abused, this little bad boy. But this is a small enough GPS. There's much bigger versions, and as I'm going to show you soon, there's much smaller versions. So these help to track where they're going. Essentially, it makes it easier on us. And there are a lot of legalities around using GPSs, who you can use them on, so on and so forth. And we make sure to obviously follow the law for everything we do, but we do end up using it a lot. So this here is still another GPS, and the nice thing about this one is we tend to use it as a private investigator on ourselves. This way, when we do undercover work, or if we don't have direct communication with our partner, we're able to slip this in our pockets, in our shirts, in our shoes even. And that way we're able to track where our partner is going if they're the one going into the infiltrating. So that way we know they're safe, or if we have, doubts or whatnot, we know where they are. So this also helps us track our team. Okay, so I'm going to move on from the GPSs. I'm going to go straight into hidden cameras. So hi, Michelle. Salut, Antoine. Hi, Jessica. If I'm missing any of you, I apologize. Thank you all for logging on. So hidden cameras are kind of our specialty. We love them. We have a million different kinds. And I end up buying a lot of random stuff that I see online regarding hidden cameras, also just to test them out, to see how they work and if they're worth it. We end up having a lot of clients that purchase equipment from us, so I want to make sure that anything we sell is something that I would use on an actual case and that's worth buying. So here we are. Okay. So for an example of something that some of you might have seen is a wall charger. It's typical, it looks normal, it actually works, but if I put it in the light, you'll see a little dot right there. So this is really handy for cases where people are seeing whether or not their partner is cheating on them, or what their kids are doing when they're not home. That's fun too. And it's also helped us in a few break and entering cases, but not purposely. It was just well planted. Elisa, does it have a mic? So in Canada, legally, any type of camera cannot record voice. It is illegal in Canada because our laws here are one of two people are allowed to record any conversation, and it can be used in court. So that means I can record any conversation I'm part of without the other person knowing. But a camera does not fall under a person category and cannot actually record audio. Hope that answers your question. A second one that I've tried, just because I'm with it about it, and I'm not a huge fan, but it works for small areas and or places where it fits in. So we've got a bunch of different kinds of hidden cameras that look like a bunch of stuff, but this one is the easiest to show on camera right now. So it's to hang your clothes, and it works. You can actually set it up, and it works. You can hang your coat, your purse if you want, your house coat, your scarf, whatever. And in the back here, as you'll see, is where you would plug in later to extract the information. And this up here, if you see in the light, that is your camera. So it works really well for stuff like that. I don't recommend it because it's not actually plugged into anything, as opposed to this one, because this one is always working. This one, the battery would eventually die. So Maxim, how long can your battery gadgets last? Have you ever lost gadgets because of signal loss or dead battery, etc.? So to the losing of the GPS, I've lost a GPS before. However, we found it because you're able to track the last location, and I'm lucky that it had fallen off of a vehicle, thanks to our wonderful road work in Ottawa and potholes. And when it fell off the vehicle, it still sent us a last signal before the battery eventually did die, and we were able to find it to literally within this big of a space around it. So we don't lose things very often. Cameras per se, we have had some lost or broken, I should say. If somebody did say something, like a client, they're not always very good at hiding the fact that they have hidden cameras in their house if they're trying to catch their spouses, and they let it slide, so the other partner kind of goes on a fun little time to try to find our camera and break it. That does happen. For the battery aspect of it, it really depends how often it's being used, if it's continuous or if it's something that's just registering when there's movement, or if there's, let's say it's a GPS, if a car is moving and then it turns on and starts registering rather than just being on 24/7. And our cameras could all work the same way, so it saves the battery. So that way it only kind of wakes up and registers when something good times. So Michelle is one of my employees, and she's been with me looking for GPSs in grass about knee, and not even higher than knee, waist, looking for that tiny little device. So our next camera. So this is to just show you as an example as to different. I have it all set up on a thing here, so this is not what it would look like if we would set up at your house. But this here is the size of a hidden camera. And this is something that we would usually install in something that already exists in the household. So if we have to hide it in a teddy bear for a nanny cam, if we have to hide it in a Kleenex box in an office, if we have to hide it also in clothing or in a shoe or something like that, that's just kind of put somewhere in the house or up on a mantle in a book. We've placed it in various different locations, and this is how small it is. So people don't typically see it, and we can actually cover all around until just that little tiny hole is shown. So these are, and if not sure what's going on with the internet tonight, I'm really sorry, everybody. Thanks for sticking around and putting up with it. So I'm going to show you two more things, and then I'm going to go in my list of craziness that we're going to discuss, which is going to be fun. So this here is a part where you can connect it to your cell phone, and if you don't have the ability to bring your big camera, you could, no problem, Kiso, thanks for joining. So this is really helpful in order to take really close-up pictures using your cell phone, because sometimes we can't be incognito while bringing a massive lens. So this is really helpful in those particular situations, which is quite often. So last thing I want to show you. So this has been beaten up. This is something I used to train people with. So it's old, and it's not the version that we use on cases anymore, but I can still show it to you. So it is a bug detector. So we get hired quite a bit by people to go in and see whether or not somebody has planted a listening or recording device of any kind in their home. So in order to find that, we have one of these little bad boys that we use. See, it's broken. This one is our training device now, which comes in handy still to teach people how to use it. And there's two ways of doing it. You can have one that you plug in so that you're listening, so it beeps in your ear. And then you can also have it set up so that it vibrates in your hand whenever it scans something close. And it also tells you how close you are to the frequency, so on and so forth. So like I've showed you, you know how small this little camera was, for instance? We find things that small, if not smaller, and planted in places you wouldn't expect. So people have, we found it in vents, in homes where we've had to take vents apart and find it there, in vehicles as well, under somebody's vehicle or under their hood. And this is really able to detect if there's anything that's ingoing, outgoing, that's anywhere, in a home, in a car, in an office. And that's really handy for that. So these little things help make somebody feel protected or safer, especially if they're a little bit paranoid. So that helps. Do you guys have any questions on gadgets that we use? And is it cool if I move on to the next topic? Or do you want me to show you or talk to you about something else that we use? Est-ce que vous êtes correct avec ce que j'ai montré à date? Puis je peux continuer avec la prochaine affaire, c'est vous expliquer des petites histoires des gens qui nous ont demandé des demandes intéressantes? Ou est-ce que vous avez des questions par rapport au matériel? Puis, how far is the range of your vehicle GPS and how do you read them? So the vehicle GPS, just for as an example, I used to live in Kempville. So for those, I'll kind of do the map later. And my target was beyond Renfrew, and it works. So the range doesn't necessarily work like that for these because it's all programmed through an application. So it works a little bit different. Whereas there are certain GPSs, such as this one, where the range is a bit smaller. It doesn't, you need to be, but the GPS is actually on a very similar plan like a cell phone would be. So you're actually paying for it to continuously send you a signal. So the question was whether or not we use handcuffs. So no, we don't use any handcuffs in the job. Typically when it would come to that point, that's where we would get the police involved. And if exactement comme une arrestation civile, puis même à ce point-là, on met pas des manottes. Juste attendre. Mais on doit leur protéger jusqu'à temps qu'au cas qu'il arrive. So we don't use handcuffs. The police usually are the ones involved when it comes to that. And if we have to have somebody pretty much stay and wait for the police, like he just mentioned here, like a civil arrest, then we still don't put any handcuffs on them. We're usually really good with our words in order to keep them calm, keep them reassured. And if we do something like that, we have to ensure their protection. They are essentially our responsibility until the police do show up. So now we have 30 minutes left that I'm going to go on, and I'm going to quickly go through craziest inquiries I've ever received as a PI. So I've owned my company for 5 years now, and I've seen just about anything and everything imaginable come through my inbox or people call me. And it's not just me. My employees that are currently on watching this could attest to this. And one of my Rockstar employees too does a lot of my administrative duties, and she and I went over some of our previous inquiries, and we still to this day cannot believe some things that people would ask us. Okay, so just to put in perspective, just the ones that we can remember off the top of our heads, we have, okay, and there's probably about 50 here, so I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm just going to mention them. Okay, so I also have some that I wrote out here. So the first one I'm going to tell you is the first year of my business, somebody wanted to hire me in order to find a long lost friend. So after looking into it a little bit more prior to locating, I ended up figuring out that this long lost friend is somebody that got him thrown in prison for passport fraud. And now, so because the people that are who I am and personality wise, I decided to provide that information to him and let him know. I'd highly suggest not to hire a private investigator to find this, because you will be sitting in the cell. And so that being said, his friend was in prison, and he quickly, changed that topic. The next example is somebody that contacted me looking for a birth certificate from somebody in Los Angeles. After, once again, figuring out that it's not their next of kin, they don't even know this person, no reason. They were just hoping to have us find identity for them so that they can start with their track of identity theft. That being said, we didn't move forward with that case either. How can you tell if a potential client wants information for legitimate, lawful reasons? Okay, so Michelle, that's a great question. And it takes your instinct for once. It takes a gut feeling, and it takes asking the right questions. I always ask people very specific questions, and how they answer me is very important, and what information about themselves they're willing to give me. So I've recorded information on all of my clients, and if they're refusing to give me anything, it's a red flag instantly. Some people, though, are fully honest with me. I've had criminals contact me wanting to do criminal activity and willing to pay me more in order for me to do it for it on the books. It's absolutely mind-boggling, but you just have to have a good feeling and really know what questions to ask. It's really important. What if you start and find the red flags during your investigation? Okay, so that does happen. And at that point, we are able, and it's written in all of our contracts, to end any investigation at any given point in time as soon as we find something's not right. And if we notice that it's for illegal activity and we do have to warn the police, that does happen as well. To touch on that point is one of our previous cases. Actually, somebody hired us to do to investigate his wife, where he thought was cheating, and he had us do surveillance on her about 4 times a week for 6 months. 6 months. To this day, I can tell you what she does every Wednesday night, when her yoga classes are, and when her son has, trombone classes. So we then, towards the end, that's when I started, and I kept telling him, she's not cheating on you. She's having, she has no time. She has nobody else in her life. This is all she does. I can guarantee you. And then something kind of showed up on his phone during one of my meetings with him, and that's when I realized, and then I looked into it a little bit more. He would hire us to do surveillance that he can cheat on her. See how that works? Smart thinking. But that's to the extent that people go. He spent a lot of time and a lot of money so that he can cheat on his wife, so that she wouldn't find out. Interesting. So Melody, hi Melody. How do you plan on staying relevant and competitive during this global pandemic and economic downturn? Oh, that's a good question. So right now, we're not offering any investigative services per se as of right now until further notice, but we are offering a ton of online classes, and we've actually just created, and when I say a ton, I mean at over 20 courses that are all provided either through Skype, through FaceTime, over the online, and with anybody taking our PI or security guard online training, we're also adding an extra bonus for free that is free tactical, hands-on tactical surveillance training that will be provided at a later date, obviously. But we're trying to really stay competitive and offer services that people can kind of, gain perspective, gain knowledge, and keep their growth going. And it's not just for people interested in private investigators, it's really for everybody. It's like you said on infidelity video, is when you suspect your partner is cheating, it's not because they are cheating and looking to get even. Exactly, Smiley. Okay, so another interesting case question, or it's not one, something that we get a lot, and a lot of, and it touches, which is really unfortunate that people come to us for these types of things, and that there's not more people in their lives to help them. However, when it comes to paranoia, when it comes to, sometimes it's schizophrenia, when it comes to just some people, is over exhaustion. They feel like they're losing their minds. And when they feel like that, they think that they're being spied on. They feel like they're being followed. They feel like they're being, they're in this realm that's not real. So we get a lot of people that hire, or that want to hire us, because they think that the government is spying them, that the ATM machines are watching them, that the lights at the red lights at the, the stop signs and all that kind of stuff are capturing their image and following them every step of the way, that their cell phones are listening to them all the time and taking pictures. And oftentimes it's the same people that come back, and we try to guide them to the proper people to talk to when this happens and when we get them, because for us it's an automatic, you don't need a private investigator. It's clear to us you don't need a private investigator. You need police, most of the time, won't do anything. It's not their realm either. They really need medical attention. But we try to guide them the most as we can. So another thing that I got was somebody that wanted us to install cameras in their home because they kept getting broken into, and things were being moved and fingerprints were being left, and they just couldn't make sense of any of it. So after we installed cameras and figured it out, the individual was just sleepwalking the entire time. Okay, so another inquiry, or another thing that has happened, is I've had a client ask to meet me, because I meet with a lot of my clients. Well, the past couple of years, Avian's been taking that part, but I meet with a lot of clients, and I've had somebody want to meet with me to discuss their infidelity, so on and so forth. And then only midway with the client did he tell me honestly that he actually separated from his wife, and he only wanted to have coffee with me and to see whether or not I'd be a suitable match for him. So yeah, I've met quite a few people like that over the past 5 years. It's been quite interesting. Okay, so I get, since social media is very popular, to say the least, and online dating is very popular, something that we get frequently, I'd say, is I'm interested in knowing whether or not somebody that I've met on Tinder is seeing or sleeping with other people while we're talking. Keep in mind, they've never met before, they've said hi, or they've matched, or whatever the case may be, and they're already interested in knowing that they're the only ones that matter, even though they've never met in person. So that's always interesting, and these types of things happen a lot, and we get a lot of different variations of that. So online dating, and this, I must say, it's all women. I've never had one man request anything like this, have gone out of their way to inquire about hiring a private investigator, to do searches on men they've never met before, but only to find out if they're sleeping with somebody else or if they're talking with other people. We've had people that they've met. However, they have all of their information, and it's somebody that they found online in this child. He is reported to, the federal attention right away. We in having more pictures on a daily routine and that kind of stuff of children, because it's something that helps their helps them some way or somehow. I don't even want to go into that detail. Do you think these ladies feel more comfortable asking you to help because you are a woman? Honestly, I don't think so. I don't even think they take the time to look into who I am before asking these. And I feel like they're probably the type of people to send the same request to 5 different companies to see whether or not somebody will take the case and research their potential future lover. So on that, we also get a lot of people interested in having us hack into whether it's social media, emails, cell phones, text messages, whatever the case may be, hack into their ex's account in order for them to get dirt on them. They want to blackmail them in the future. They want to embarrass them. They're not happy that they got dumped. Something that we get a lot of, and as soon as we shut them down, they probably jump on to the next. But that's something that happens a lot. People want revenge. People want vengeance, and we're here. And Michelle here just wrote 100%. So she's also one of my Rockstar employees, and she's seen over the past, I think she's been working with me for 4 years now. So she can attest to the fact that we've had a ton of inquiries like that. Completely, we can write about it. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I have way too many here to completely go through, and we've got 5 minutes left. So if you guys have any questions, now is the time to ask it. Il nous reste 5. Okay, so Ariane and I spoke about a few cases today, and there's quite a few I don't even know between these 2 particular ones which one I'm going to tell you. Let's start with, you know what, I'm going to end it on a bang. I'm going to start with the easiest one. So we've been hired by a woman. A woman wanted us to do surveillance on her ex-lover. Okay, ex-lover. And then for specific reasons, the reasons that she gave us, it fell in line with a proper reason to do a little bit of surveillance. That being said, very quickly, we then realized that this woman wanted to know if her ex-lover was seeing somebody else, although she was still married to her husband. Blows my mind. Okay, so does that still exist? No, that was entertaining in the 90s, I feel like. But no, we're not like that whatsoever. We're more on different types of cases of all kinds. You'll see, you know, murder trials. You'll see infidelity. You'll see divorce cases, custody battles. You'll see fraud, corporate level, and everything. So I'm gonna say the last little thing here that I'm not even sure how to put into words because it still makes no sense in my head. And Ariane, please feel free to help me on this. So we were hired by a woman to do surveillance on her, so we thought, ex-spouse, in order to see who he's living with and everything that's going on, because they have children and they wanted to keep the safety of the children, so on and so forth. So that happens quite a bit. That being said, it turned into some sort of sexual plotting fantasy thing in order to have private investigators part of their little scheme, their little life there. And it was just really a way, and this entire time she was telling her ex-partner, that she had hired private investigators. And so everybody was aware that private investigators were involved, but it kind of seemed to like turn them on. Really weird. And I've never lived something like that before. And Ariane was definitely in the middle of that fire, and I can guarantee she's probably never lived something like that before either, and she'll never forget that investigation. My goodness. So if that made any sense, I'm going to try to so yes, Michelle, what a twist. So how many outside organizations are you affiliated with or have you had to work with during your time solving cases? As an example, child services, lawyers, RCMP, officers, etc. Oh wow, a ton. So we've worked with police from Ottawa, from Kingston, from Sudbury. We've worked with like for various reasons, such as missing persons as well. Police from Montreal. We work with other private investigation companies. We've worked with RCMP officers for fraud cases as well. We've worked with child services, especially when kids disappear or end up in the trafficking, human trafficking, or the drug ring. In Ottawa, a couple of years ago, we had a big drug problem where a lot of kids were part of also underage prostitution. So we were part of that. And so we've worked with a bunch of different affiliations in order to complete a lot of our cases. Okay, so I just noticed the time. We are at our 1 hour. Thank you all so much for joining us today. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And please let me know if you guys want to hear more of these stories next week. I haven't even touched the half of my stack yet. So I've got definitely a lot to talk about. And if you guys have specific questions or specific topics that you would like for me to talk about as well, or if you want some specific things you want to learn about, please feel free to either write it in the comments, send us a personal message. You can write to me directly, and we will we'll definitely keep it entertaining for you guys as much as possible. And once again, thank you all very much. And part of this, I really appreciate it. And Smiley, thank you. And everybody from the Sleuth, thanks you guys very much. And everybody from Private Eye Investigation, thanks you. Hope you all have a very good night. Stay safe, stay home, stay healthy, and see you next week. Thank you, Chantal. Bye. Merci. Thank you. Have a good night, guys.